Hey guys, today we'll be doing a really big video. In that we'll be doing a tier list of every tower in cube defense so far. I mean, I hope they don't add any more. Otherwise, I'll make this irrelevant. Yeah, so just note this video might not be relevant in months or maybe even weeks as there's constantly changes to towers. But I hope you find this enjoyable. Yeah, so let's get into this. First tower we got is light turret, which is a starter tower. It's not very good, but for what you get, it's not bad. I'd probably say it's around the C. Yeah, probably a C tier. Next up is plasma tower. This is also a starter tower, and I think it's a bit better than light turret. So plus, I will be considering paragons for this. Obviously, plasma does have a paragon. But even without it, I still think it's a B tier. The next tower on our list is the bubble tower, the first tower, which you should probably buy because it's a pretty good tower for being a level 1 tower. Pretty cheap as well. However, I'd still say it's probably C tier, better than light turret. Yeah, definitely better than light turret. Next up is the sea battery, the first water tower in the game. And honestly, I don't think you should just buy this. It's kind of trash. Light turret is probably slightly better. I mean, if you're desperate, then I'd probably say just buy for having it. Probably bottom of the C tier for now. The next tower is the campfire. Now this is obviously an immediate. Hang on. No, it's an S tier. Just because of its amazing buffs it gives, range, cost reduction, and shadow sight giving. I highly suggest buying this tower as soon as you can for the price you pay, only 1,000-ish gold, level 3. Just buy it. Next up is the glue gun, which D tier, no questions. Low damage, which is not its purpose, but to slow down cubes, it fails horribly, and there's just better options. So just don't use glue gun, guys. Now next up is the golden light turret, which is pretty controversial because obviously not many people own it because it's only given out by devs. So I have to be fair for this one. I'm probably going to put it in A tier because it's pretty good if you have it. Actually, no, we're going to put it in B tier. Considering it can break a 1% chance. So it's very risky to use and most people will not use it because of that. So just consider that if you somehow do get it. Next up is the golden glue gun, a way better version of the glue gun, which probably goes in B tier. I think it's slightly better than plasma. Because obviously there's much more damage and a much more better job at slowing down cubes. And it's technically free, all you have to do is win 125 matches of any game mode. So yeah, there's not really any negatives to this tower, it's just a solid tower overall. Next up is the bucket, D tier. I know it's a meme tower, and technically it does have a small purpose, but no one uses it, so it's an automatic D tier. Even glue gun's better than it. Next up is spike trap, and I don't know why it's upside down. This is also a D tier. It's just very insignificant in that its only purpose is to kill cubes that leak, which is pretty much never, and why would you waste a tower slot when you could just bring anything else? maybe other than like a glue gun, but like even the gold version is just not that good. If the cube's got a couple hundred HP, you're probably not killing it. Yeah, so just I wouldn't spend Robux on it, and I wouldn't even consider buying it, the normal one for gold. Next up is the factory and the comedy tower, which gives you money and it's pretty good. It's an 80. I would probably suggest buying it. It's a very early level tower, and it helps you make a lot of money. Yeah, nothing really bad about it. Next up is the mounted flamethrower. Now, its main purpose is the first sort of burn damage tower in the game. And recently I found out it's not as bad as I thought. I thought it was trash, but it's kind of good. Has high burn damage. I'm pretty sure 8 damage for 64 seconds. That's a lot of damage. That's a couple hundred burn. But unfortunately it has a slow fire rate and a single target. But I'd say it's probably solid B tier. Maybe C tier. So I don't think I'd suggest buying it straight away, but if you had to use it, it's not too bad. Next up is the wall, which is also just the D tier. Spike Spike Trap, it's very hard, especially since they nerfed it even more by making it have a cooldown before it even activates, making it somehow worse than it already was. So just don't buy the wall either. Just don't. You'll regret it. Next up is the heavy turrent. I'd say it's probably C tier. It's pretty much the next step up from the bubble tower. High damage tower, but look, kind of slow fire frequency. Yeah, so I mean, if you're an early level player, I'd probably buy it quite soon, as probably one of your main defenses in early, easy mode. Yeah. Next up is the shocker, which I'm gonna put in C tier as well. Probably better than the bubble tower. The shocker is an AoE tower, which deals damage to every cube in its range, which is pretty good. And I also didn't know this one got buffed. I don't know when, but I thought it was worse, but somehow it's a bit better than I thought. Still not amazing, but hey, it's better. So yeah, it's pretty good actually for its level. And if you're early level, probably buy it. Next up is defabricator. Probably a C tier. Its use is good, but like its main purpose is defabricating objects by removing them off the map to give you more room. But to be honest, most people can work around this. I can work around it. So unless you're really desperate to just have more room, then I guess you can buy it. It's cheap to buy. But yeah, you're kind of just wasting a tower slot. I mean, yeah, it's alright. Anyway, moving on is the gold mine. Name it explains itself. This one probably goes C tier. Its main purpose is to obviously give you gold. It's basically like a factory for gold. But people who usually use this end up not defending, and you're not going to be very liked if you do it. Unless you know you can be absolutely carried the early waves, then just don't use it and just play the game and earn gold better. Because most modes give you decent gold anyway, so don't try and be greedy. Plus, it's pretty expensive for level 5,000 gold for low level. It's not that easy. So I wouldn't buy it. Anyway, next tower is the mortar, which is... Ooh, this is pretty good. This is probably... Don't know actually. It could be a B tier or an A tier. I think I'm going to put it at the very top of the B tier. As this tower also it's also got Paragon, but on its own it's pretty good. Dealing pretty high damage and some solid burn damage. I'd probably suggest buying this tower as soon as you can. I think it's about 3,000 gold. But for the price you pay, you get a pretty good tower, and if you can even get the Paragon, then it's even more powerful. So yeah, mortar is a good tower. Next is the raft. It's easier. Now, the raft has very little function and essentially just lets you place land towers on water, which, when would you ever need to do that? The only reason I could think of it not putting in D tier is it can be used in Nightmare sometimes. That's about it. That's the only reason I spared it from the D tier. Just, like, I mean, it's cheap, so I guess you can just buy it if you want to have another tower. But, like, not really a reason to buy it. Yeah, I'd avoid this one, guys. Anyway, next up is the missile launcher. A tier. Ever since the Paragon came out, it's been the #1 tower to help in Nightmare Apocalypse. And it's just a solid tower in general, really. Dealing high explosive damage. Yeah, I'd just buy this, guys. It's pretty good. Paragon's kind of cheap. Deals kind of high damage. I believe it's 50. But you can place up to 8 of them. Yeah, so probably buy this tower, guys. Next up is the Enhancer, which is another immediate S tier. Because, yeah, like the campfire, it buffs all your towers by giving fire rate and damage boosts. Which, who doesn't want that? I'd probably buy it. It's a bit expensive, being nearly 10k gold. But it's worth it, guys. Definitely buy this tower. Because it will make games a lot more easier and probably will save you from many deaths. Next up is the mounted minigun. I'm probably going to put this in B tier. Probably above gold glue gun. The minigun is a pretty solid tower. Has a low fire rate, but does low damage, but a high fire frequency, and it also has Paragon. Well, it's kind of trash Paragon, which is why it goes in B tier. The Paragon was somewhat good and might be an A tier. It's just sort of a mid tower. You can get it, or you can not get it. It's up to you really, but like, personally I got it and I wasn't too disappointed. It's just an all-around decent tower that, yeah, I think it's kind of worth it, but it's up to you. Next up is the battleship, which is also a B tier in my opinion, as it's another water tower. And yeah, it's pretty solid for the price you pay. It's also got a Paragon, which is kind of good, but no one really uses it. And I think it's kind of alright. I mean, you've seen the video, hopefully, of me reviewing it, and you've seen it. It's not the best Paragon, but it's alright. Yeah, so it belongs in B tier. Now, submarine. It's the next one. Another water tower. I'd probably say top of B tier. No, more. It's a bit. The submarine is a really good water tower, mainly in its high range, being map covering. Even more map covering with the Paragon. Its damage is pretty good. And it can also just like kill anything. Leaks. It can even deal with some semi-high HP cubes. It's a pretty good starter tower. It's just good for everything really. And I highly suggest buying this. It's probably the first good water tower you'll get access to in the game. Probably buy it over Battleship. Yeah. The submarine is just a good tower. Next up is the blade spinner, which is another sort of AoE / burn damage tower. As it attacks all cubes at range once, then does burn / I guess bleed damage. It's honestly probably top of the C tier for me. Even the Paragon can't save it, and also it just can't see metal or shadow keys, which is just a huge negative to one. And I probably wouldn't buy it. Just, yeah, there's better options. The next tower we have is the plantation, which is another economy tower. But it's quite different in that it splits the money between your teammates, which I don't use. I'm going to put this in. You know what? It's not, I guess B tier. It's solid economy tower. Could be better. I don't think I'd buy it straight away, just maybe if one person has it. I mean, if you really want to share money and be a good teammate, then, you know, just buy it. Anyway, next up is the railgun. Let's not get these confused. Now, the railgun is a very good tower in that it does super high damage at a very slow frequency, but it's very good. It does hundreds of damage. Probably A tier. If you can, as soon as you can get your hands on this, I would buy it. It's quite expensive, but I think it's worth it. It's a solid tower that can be used in most game modes. Anyway, next up we have the rail minigun, which is the minigun rail. This is basically a better version of the minigun. It does quite low damage, but a very high fire frequency. But this one's quite better. This one's also... Actually, I'm going to put this in the B tier, because I don't think it's quite A tier material. Yeah. I believe it has a slightly lower frequency than the minigun, but much higher damage compared to it. I believe like 24 every 0.6 seconds compared to 8 every 0.1. Yeah. It's pretty good. I suggest buying it. Anyways, next up is the anti-cube defense. To be honest, I literally never use this thing. Like, I don't see its purpose really. It's probably just, it just makes the B tier. Or the C tier. Like, no one ever uses this thing. I never use it. It's kind of trash. Just don't buy it. You'll be saving yourself a lot of gold, which you can use to buy better towers. Such as the next tower, the tomb. The tomb is probably an S tier. And it's probably the best water tower you'll find in the game, since it does very high damage, even without the Paragon. As it also chains its damage like lightning bolts. And it looks cool. Yeah. So it's high to just buy the tower, even though it's very expensive. However, do note when using this tower, it can speed up lightning cubes, so probably place down other defenses before placing this. Otherwise you might die. Anyways, we got the final economy tower, I think, being the oil rig, which bottom of B tier. Probably even plantation's pretty bad. In my opinion, they pretty much ruined it by changing how it works. The old one was more iconic and more better. I understand why they did it though, to make them different, because it makes the game a bit boring. But I mean, if you want to buy it, if you want to make a lot of money, but it costs a lot and you have to wait around, it's pretty much only good for endless really when you have lots of time. But even then, you basically make all the money you want. So probably just maybe not buy it right away. There's just better options. Next up is the stealth bomber. A tier. No questions. Pretty good tower, even despite them changing it. Still solid, especially Paragon. You'll be destroying stuff with this. I believe it's more of a splash damage tower without Paragon. But it's still really good. Probably should get it as soon as you can. Stealth bomber is just an amazing tower. Next up is orbital satellites. A tier as well. Another high damage tower. Decent splash. Very good range, map covering range. Probably wouldn't buy it straight away, as I think you should buy stealth bomber, maybe tomb first, even temple. But yeah, it's a solid tower. Bit of support. Yeah, nothing really bad about it. You know, actually, probably can go in B tier. Not quite A tier too. Next up is the Sun Temple. S tier. One of the most powerful towers in the game. Which is why I suggest getting it. Like, for me, I think you should skip orbital satellite. Like, maybe get stealth, then Sun Temple. As if you know how to use this, which I might make a video showing you how to sacrifice, but there are other videos. But if you know how to sacrifice towers to this thing, you've got one of the most powerful towers in your inventory. Yeah, so it's just, there's literally, the only negative is being quite expensive, but that still doesn't still does not justify it being an S tier. If I said that right, hopefully. Yeah, just a good tower all around, really. Definitely buy it. It's a must buy. It's good for nightmare, chaos, just anything really. There's no negatives. Next up is the garrison. Our first spawn tower. I'm surprised it took us this long to get to it. It's probably, it's either just the bottom of A tier or top B tier. You know, no, it's got to be in B tier. Now this tower is a spawn tower, which means it spawns stuff down the line. And for its job, it's pretty good. I believe the max garrison does 2,000 damage. With also a minigun and a cannon. It's a pretty good support tower. The leads are just like chipping away at their HP. Pretty solid. It's quite expensive though, even more expensive than Temple, which I'd say you have probably get Temple and then consider getting Garrison. Yeah, but Garrison is just an amazing tower. Next up we have Orbital Cannon, which is quite an interesting tower after what they've done to it. Probably B tier. Like here. In that it no longer does super high damage and it's more of a splash damage tower. I mean, I think it's alright, but I kind of miss the old one. And I don't really see the issue really, since it's technically a free tower. Just get to level 30 and it's yours. Yeah. Don't want to try and start any controversy over the tower. Next up is MK2, another S tier. Just a Sun Temple, but better. Providing buffs to your other temples. And it's not really a question of when to buy it, as it's level 50, and you probably should have enough gold by then. But yeah, just buy it when you can, really, as soon as you can. It's good for Nightmare, it's pretty much good for all events. You just probably be more respected by it, just a good tower. Alright, I think we're moving on to most of the event towers now. Or, like, different attainable towers, being the star, which is B tier. Being obtained in Trial of Xovuso, the lower version of it. Medium mode, I think? Or hard? It's a pretty good tower. Being, dealing with high HP cubes. Obviously it's free, you just gotta beat it. And for its level requirement, it's actually quite a good tower, only level 15. Yeah, it's pretty good for it. Next up is the last shot tower, I think, the fabricator. I don't know why it's upside down, but it's probably an A tier. This tower is very overpowered, but it's quite expensive, so that kind of counts and justifies the price. And I mean, once again, high level, you'll probably have enough gold to buy it. I'm not gonna tell you when to buy it, just buy it. Once you hit the high enough level. Very overpowered tower. Speaking of overpowered, we've got another S tier here, being the Lord of Xovuso, which is also upside down. For some reason, all the pictures I took are upside down. Yeah, this is basically the star, but much better. Obtained by beating Trial of Xovuso hard mode or chaos mode. Basically the hardest version. If you beat it, you'll be rewarded with one of the best towers in the game. Being literally massive damage. Just insane, really. You must, like, it's also quite a low level, 35. I would have expected like 50-ish. But hey, if you're 35, try and get carried. Yeah, nothing really wrong with it, really. It's also quite cheap compared to most towers now. Anyway, moving on to the next tower, which, oh, we got another rest here. Void Rift. This tower is just also insane. Pretty OP. And it's also obtained through doing the Deep Void event. So it's not really, it doesn't cost anything. Yeah, I'll probably just try and get, obviously you require Void Seal. And also cooperation with 6 people. But if you can get this tower, you will have one of the rarest towers, and one of the most overpowered towers. And it's doing super high damage. I don't think it's quite, kind of the same as Lord. It's also a good support tower. It's just a good tower at everything, really. It's got the benefits of campfire enhancer, and super high damage of Lord and temples. Just a really good tower, really. Next up is the That Ice Tower, which is unfortunately going in the C tier. It's basically a shocker and a glue gun combined, in having less damage than a shocker and decent glue gun effects. This tower is not attainable, being in a winter trial. Hard mode, level 30, which is honestly not even worth it. I feel like you should be like 20 or 15, because it's not, I mean, it does its job. It's good at slowing down, but like, I think, yeah, the next tower, the Frost Rail, it's probably better. An A tier. Frost Rail is the second winter trial tower, chaos mode. And it's basically better than that ice in that it totally freezes cubes for a couple seconds. Also has the high damage of a railgun, so it's basically railgun and freeze combined. Level 50, it's quite a high level, but definitely worth it. And yeah, just Try and get it next winter trial if you can, because you have another good tower. Next up, we got the second spawn tower being the Haunted Manor. This is basically just a worse version of the garrison, maxing at around 900 HP. That's with it buffed, by the way. Used to do 850. This is a Halloween tower, so can't get this one either until Halloween. But I mean, it's only a month away from this video, so who knows? You might have it soon. But I'll probably get the blazefall and the Dutchman first. Yeah, speaking of blazefall, this is also an A tier. The best AoE damage tower, which I actually uploaded today if you saw. So most of my explanation for that will be in that video. Yeah, just a really good tower, really. Once again, Halloween, level 50. Just try and get it. Except it's a Dutchman, also an A tier. Once again, we got another Halloween tower. I believe it's only 27 required, so kind of low level. It's... actually, I might put it B tier. Actually, no. I'll put it A tier. It's a pretty solid tower. Good start tower. Paragon makes it sort of usable for late game. I would try and get it. Alright, I gotta try and speed this up because I'm running out of time. Next up is Jolly Gatling, which is just trash, like one of the worst towers ever. Paragon can't even save it. Just don't. I mean, if you really want it that bad, be my guest. Next up is Santa Sleigh, which it's B tier. Slightly it's worse version of stealth, but its range is actually the highest in the game, which can cover pretty much any map, being like 120 range. Not really a problem, really. I mean, if you really want it, you can get it. Christmas time. Right, we've pretty much got Easter towers left. Starting with egg cannon, which is solid B tier. As the Easter towers seem to got a bit of a massive buff, with egg cannon doing like 200 damage and 100 slash. Definitely get this tower in Easter. I mean, it's quite a way. But yeah, egg cannon is just a really good tower now. Same with the egg launcher. Its splash damage is just it's insane. Dealing like 200 damage to all cubes in its range. I mean, it hits in its explosion size. Like, why did they make these two towers so good? Alright, we've got the final spawn tower. Being Red Guy's side wagon / Tesla. It's pretty much the middle, being not as good as Garrison, but better than the Manor. But having a special stat to increase its health each spawn. And yeah, now you can actually buy this for Robux, but I wouldn't do it. You literally don't need it. It's pretty much just to support devs and collect the tower. Next up is Pumpkin Launcher. Solid C tier. It's average. It's the worst Halloween tower. Pretty cheap Halloween tower, really. Just don't use it. I mean, it's cheap, so I guess you can just buy it straight away. Oh, nearly there, guys. We've got the pool next, which is actually a really good tower. No, not D tier. Around B tier. In that you can place water towers on land, which is good for maps that have no water. Because then you can bring OP towers like the sub, the tomb, And it also gives a range boost, which I don't think they need to have, but I don't actually own it, but I've seen how good it is. And I really want to get it, so I'll get it and you should get it too. Next up is the Spike Factory, which I can't personally rate, but from what I've seen, it's B tier. It's basically just what Spike Trap should have been, constantly generating more, instead of only being able to place like 5. Yeah, I can't really judge it, but from what I've seen, it's good. Now this, I don't own this, but I have used it in Halloween, and it is very good. Super high. It's basically the heavy turret, but way better. A lot better actually, dealing hundreds of damage. High DPS, low cost, has both sights. There's just nothing wrong with this tower. And unfortunately you cannot obtain either the Heavy Turret Mark II or the Spike Factory because they were only available during beta and alpha testing. So, rip for me. Anyway, the last proper tower, the Egg Fabricator. Probably also going to go in the C tier. Being basically the Easter version of the Spike Factory, but worse. And it's kind of good. You know what, I'll put it in B tier. I've used it. It's literally good in Nightmare Keep-Up. Being that it spawns eggs that explode. And it's also got a Paragon, which it's kind of like the pre-version of the Fabricator, spawning mini egg cannons. And it's kind of good. I think you should probably get egg cannon, egg launcher, then this. It's sort of like the lower, worse Easter Tower, still good. And finally we have the final tower, the egg. Basically a reskin of Bucket. And looks like that's about it. That concludes my tier list. Let me know if you agree. And this took way too long. See you next time.